help us hit our first 1,000 subscribers. Your support drives us to create even more wonderful stories. Thanks for being part of our journey. In this video, I thought my wife was staying late at work for her promotion, but one message from a stranger turned my whole world upside down. Ethan had always admired how driven his wife Claire was. She was sharp, charming, and ambitious. Someone who lit up any room she walked into, especially in her fast-paced corporate environment at Pinnacle Corp. So when she told him she was staying late at work to prepare for a big presentation that could finally land her the senior project manager role, he didn't question it. For the first few days, he was even supportive. He made her dinner, waited up for her, and texted sweet reminders like, "Good luck, babe," or "Proud of you, Dash." But then the late nights became routine. 5 nights in a row. She came home well past 10 p.m., sometimes even after midnight, and each time she looked more exhausted. Yet oddly distracted. One night, while Ethan reheated her untouched pasta for the 3rd time in a week, he casually asked, "So, how's the pitch going?" Claire gave a delayed answer, eyes still on her phone. "It's intense, Sean's pushing us hard, Dash." Ethan nodded, but something didn't sit right. He had never heard her speak about her boss in such a familiar tone before. Not Mr. Bradford, Dash, just Sean. Still, Ethan brushed it off. He told himself not to spiral. But the next morning, when Claire left in a rush and forgot her phone on the nightstand, Ethan noticed a message preview flash on the screen. "Same time today?" No name, just a heart emoji at the end. He didn't unlock her phone. He couldn't. He wasn't that guy. But now, something had changed inside him. He wasn't just a supportive husband anymore. He was a man with a growing knot in his stomach and a single haunting question. Who was Claire really staying late for? Keep watching, because in the next part, Ethan receives a message from a complete stranger that will shatter everything he thinks he knows about his marriage. Don't miss what happens in the next chapter. Coming up next. 2 days after seeing the mysterious heart emoji on Claire's phone, Ethan tried to push the thought out of his mind, but something inside him just wouldn't let go. The way she smiled less at home, the way her phone never left her side anymore. Even during showers, it all began to connect in quiet, disturbing ways. Then it happened. While Ethan was making coffee on Saturday morning, he received a message on his work email. The subject line read, "You deserve the truth about Claire Dash." At first, he thought it was spam, but the sender had attached 2 photos. One showed Claire standing beside a tall man in a suit, Sean Bradford, her boss, outside a hotel entrance. The second photo made Ethan's stomach twist. It was Claire and Sean at what looked like the same hotel bar, her hand resting on his chest, both of them smiling like lovers. His vision blurred. He slammed the laptop shut. He paced the room, heart pounding louder than his thoughts. But then his logical side kicked in. Anyone could fake photos. Anyone could be trying to ruin Claire's career or their marriage. But just as he reached for the laptop again, a new message pinged. This time it said, "She's at room 429 every Wednesday. Just knock. She won't expect you, Dash." Ethan stared at the screen in disbelief. Who was this person? How did they know so much? Why were they telling him? His palms were sweating, and for a second he even laughed bitterly. Was this a joke? But deep down he knew this wasn't random. This was personal. Now he had a choice. Ignore it, stay in denial, or show up next Wednesday and find out the truth for himself. And the worst part? A small voice inside him already knew what he'd find. You won't believe what Ethan sees when he decides to follow that message. Stay with us and don't miss what happens in the next chapter. It's about to get way more intense. Coming up next. Wednesday couldn't come fast enough. Ethan barely slept the night before. Every hour felt like a countdown to something that could either shatter his life or bring him peace. He told Claire he had a late meeting downtown. She didn't even blink, didn't ask questions, didn't seem suspicious, and that silence hurt worse than any words could have. He parked across the street from the hotel at 6:42 p.m., the exact time the message had mentioned. He watched the entrance. His hands trembled as he waited, barely blinking. Then, just like clockwork, Claire stepped out of a cab. She wasn't wearing her usual work clothes. Instead, a deep red dress hugged her body. her hair styled differently than she ever wore it at home. She looked excited, nervous, but in the way people are before a date, not a meeting. Ethan watched her walk through the lobby glass doors. She didn't even look back. His chest burned. He waited 10 more minutes, then crossed the street and entered the hotel. The receptionist didn't even glance up. Ethan moved with heavy steps toward the elevator. Every second inside that elevator felt like a scream trapped in his lungs. He reached the 4th floor, walked down the quiet hallway. Room 429. He stood in front of it, frozen. His hand hovered over the door. He was about to knock, but then, voices, a laugh, Claire's laugh, and a man's voice. "You always know how to drive me insane. You know that?" Ethan's heart shattered. He didn't need to see anymore, but he had to. He knocked once. Silence. Then rustling. Then the door opened halfway, and there she was, Claire, in the dress, eyes wide, lips parted in shock. She didn't even say his name. Behind her, shirtless, stood Sean Bradford, her boss, and in that instant, Ethan realized something even worse than betrayal. Claire wasn't shocked that he found her. She was shocked it had taken him so long. And just when you think you know where this is heading, trust me, you don't. The next chapter reveals a secret that flips the whole story upside down. Stick around and hear what Claire says next. You won't believe it, coming up right now. Claire stood frozen in the doorway, one hand gripping the edge of the door like it was the only thing holding her upright. Ethan stared at her, waiting for anything. Words, an apology, even a lie, but she didn't speak. Instead, Sean stepped forward, smug and unbothered, tossing on a button-down shirt like he'd just come from a gym session and not from Ethan's marriage. Ethan clenched his fists, his voice low. "How long?" he asked. His words cut the silence like a blade. Claire finally blinked. "Since February," she said. Her voice cracked. She didn't even try to deny it, didn't try to act like this was some misunderstanding. And that hurt more than the betrayal itself. Ethan laughed. It was dry, hollow, completely void of joy. "I thought I was going crazy," he said. "All the nights you stayed late, all the texts you hid, and I told myself I was just being insecure. Claire took a step forward, reaching for him, but Ethan stepped back. "Don't," he snapped. "You don't get to touch me right now. Behind her, Sean crossed his arms, clearly waiting for the drama to blow over. "Claire," Ethan said again, his voice shaking now. "Did you ever plan to tell me?" She hesitated. That hesitation was the answer. And then she said something Ethan didn't expect. "I didn't want to hurt you, Ethan, but I also didn't want to lose this. She glanced behind her at Sean, and just like that, Ethan felt like a stranger in his own life. A fire lit inside him. This wasn't going to end in a quiet divorce. This wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. It was about the truth, about everything that had been going on behind his back for months. And if Claire thought she was going to walk away clean, she was dead wrong. "I'm not done," Ethan said. Claire frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm going to find out everything," he replied. "Every email, every lie, every secret And just before he turned to leave, Sean muttered something under his breath. "Dude, don't make it dramatic. People get bored in marriage all the time. Ethan stopped. He turned back, slowly, and smiled. "You just made a huge mistake," he whispered. "Both of you. He walked away without slamming the door. The silence was louder than any scream could have been. But inside, Ethan was already building something bigger than revenge. Something that would change all of their lives forever. You thought the confrontation was the climax? Think again. The next part unravels a dark twist that not even Claire saw coming. Stay right here, because what Ethan does next will blow your mind. Coming up in the next chapter. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He sat alone in his home office, the pale glow of his laptop screen reflecting in his tired eyes. With trembling fingers, he logged into their shared cloud account. Something Claire had forgotten still synced with her old email. It was a digital time machine, and every click peeled back another layer of betrayal. There were dozens of messages, some subtle, some not at all. Emails titled meeting notes that were really flirty exchanges, calendar invites marked client follow-up that were actually for lunch dates with Sean. But the worst wasn't the physical betrayal. It was how emotionally close they had become. Sean knew things Ethan never told anyone. Claire had laughed with him about Ethan's habits, mocked his routines, shared private things that were supposed to be sacred. Then he found it, an audio file, attached to an email Claire had forwarded to herself months ago. Ethan clicked play. Claire's voice filled the room. She was whispering, breathless. "I don't think I've ever felt this alive. With Ethan, I always felt like I had to be someone else. With you, I can just be me." The air left Ethan's lungs. He paused the file, then hit play again. The words didn't change. What else was she hiding? He scrolled further and saw a thread labeled Vacation Plan March. They had told him it was a team-building conference, but the hotel confirmation showed only 2 names: Claire and Sean. Same room, same bed, and worst of all, March was the month Ethan had taken unpaid time off to repaint their house. Because Claire said she didn't want to go anywhere, his knuckles went white gripping the mouse. It wasn't just cheating. It was coordinated. It was heartless. Then something new caught his attention. A short email from Claire to a contact named JR Legal Dash. The subject line? Prenup and next steps dash. He opened it and froze. Claire had been asking about dissolving assets, about how to protect her share in case things went sour with Ethan Dash. This email was dated 2 weeks before she told Ethan she loved him more than ever. He realized now, this wasn't a spontaneous affair. This was a plan, a strategy. Claire and Sean hadn't just betrayed him. They were trying to erase him. Ethan stared at the screen in silence. But inside, something had shifted. The pain had turned into fuel. He clicked print, then download all. Then he opened a new folder and named it Claire's Real Face. He wasn't going to confront her yet. No, now that he knew the truth, he was going to control the game. And Claire? She would never see it coming. The game just changed, and Ethan is no longer the victim. The next chapter flips the story completely. You won't believe what he does next. Stick around. It's only getting darker. In the next chapter, Ethan spent the next 2 days pretending nothing had changed. He smiled when Claire came home. He kissed her on the cheek. He even asked about her day, while memorizing every word, every hesitation in her voice. But behind the curtain, Ethan was orchestrating a quiet storm. He made an anonymous appointment with a private investigator, a man named Victor. Ex-cop, no nonsense, and discreet. Ethan handed him the printed emails, the hotel receipts, even the audio file. Victor raised an eyebrow. "This isn't just infidelity," he muttered. "This is a setup. They're playing you like a pawn, Dash." Ethan nodded slowly. "Not anymore, Dash." They devised a plan. Victor would install a hidden camera in Ethan's home office and sync it with a motion-activated recorder. But more importantly, he would place a GPS tracker under Claire's car. Ethan didn't want to guess anymore. He wanted proof. On the surface, he played the role of the oblivious husband perfectly. He even surprised Claire with her favorite dinner one night and suggested a weekend getaway to reconnect Dash. She smiled, too wide, and politely declined. "Too much going on at work," she said. That night, Ethan watched her phone screen flash as she messaged someone under the contact name Emily G. Dash, but he had already checked. Claire had no friend named Emily, and he knew the truth now. Emily G. was Sean. The next morning, the GPS pinged her location at a hotel just a few blocks from her office. She had told Ethan she was working late with her boss. Instead, she was working late under her boss. Ethan drove to the hotel and waited from across the street. He didn't need to see her walk in. He didn't need to see the way she held Sean's hand. The confirmation came when Claire never returned home until after 1 a.m. The trap was working. Now Ethan just had to pull the final string. But he wanted it to hurt. Not physically, emotionally. He wanted her to feel the same kind of betrayal, public, humiliating, irreversible. That's when the idea struck him. A company gala was coming up, an event where Sean and Claire would both be present, an event where Claire was going to be awarded Employee of the Quarter Dash. Ethan smiled to himself. If they wanted to humiliate him behind closed doors, he was going to humiliate them in front of hundreds. But to do it, He'd need one more ally. Someone on the inside, someone who hated Sean just as much as he did, and she worked 2 desks away from Claire. The net is tightening, but who is this new ally? And will she help Ethan destroy the perfect facade Claire built? Don't miss what happens next. It's the beginning of their fall, coming up in the next chapter. Her name was Olivia, and she'd been working in the same office as Claire for over 2 years. She wasn't just a colleague. She was the one person who saw through Sean's perfect act from the beginning, and she hated him for reasons Ethan hadn't expected. When Ethan reached out to her anonymously through a burner account, Olivia didn't hesitate. She agreed to meet in a quiet cafe far from the city center. She arrived in a long coat, her eyes scanning the room. But when she sat across from Ethan, her tone was calm and calculated. "I've been waiting for someone to finally take that bastard down," she said. "I've seen the way Sean manipulates people. And Claire? She used to be better than this dash." Ethan showed her the evidence. Texts, emails, even a photo of Claire holding Sean's hand in the parking lot. Olivia flinched, not because she didn't believe it, but because it confirmed everything she already suspected. "I can help you," she said, "but if we're going to do this, we need to be smart. That gala, it's your stage, but we need a script dash." Over the next few days, they put the pieces together. Olivia would accidentally leave a USB on Claire's desk, filled with documents exposing Sean's other workplace affairs and private communications. Claire would open it. The twist? Ethan had already rewritten some of the files. Enough to make Claire believe Sean was cheating on her too. Ethan didn't just want revenge. He wanted chaos, implosion from the inside. If Claire was going to break his heart in private, he was going to shatter hers in front of everyone she respected. But that wasn't all. With Olivia's help, Ethan discovered something darker. Sean wasn't just sleeping with Claire. He was using her. He had convinced her to leak confidential financial data from Ethan's company, details she had access to through Ethan's home computer. This wasn't just a betrayal of love. It was criminal. Now Ethan had to decide. Would he go to the police, or would he destroy them both? His way? The gala was in 2 days. Claire still kissed him goodnight, still said, "I love you, Dash." And Ethan? He just smiled, knowing her perfect world was about to collapse. The pieces are in place. The betrayal runs deeper than anyone imagined. And Ethan's revenge is no longer personal. It's strategic, but what happens when the hunter becomes the target? Don't miss what unfolds next. It's going to hit hard, coming up in the next chapter. The night of the gala arrived, wrapped in velvet elegance and fragile illusions. Ethan stood at the edge of the ballroom, wearing a suit tailored like armor and holding a champagne glass he wouldn't drink. The room sparkled with chandeliers, fake smiles, and secrets nobody dared say aloud. Claire entered 15 minutes late, wearing a deep blue dress Ethan had never seen before. She was radiant, but not for him. Her eyes kept scanning the crowd, subtly, like a woman searching for someone specific. Ethan didn't move. He watched as Sean arrived exactly 3 minutes later, not with a partner, not with a colleague, but alone. And then he slipped to the far corner of the room, pretending he wasn't watching Claire. Olivia walked in next, blending into the crowd as if she belonged there all her life. She gave Ethan the subtlest of nods. The bait was set. At exactly 8:47 p.m., just before the CEO's speech, Ethan stepped onto the small stage with a microphone. He tapped it twice, silencing the room with nothing but sound. The lights dimmed slightly, and a large screen behind him flickered to life. "I wasn't supposed to speak tonight," he began, his voice calm, almost too calm. "But I feel that honesty deserves a spotlight dash." The first video played. It was a private camera feed from the company parking lot, dated 3 weeks ago. Claire stepping out of Sean's car at midnight, smoothing her dress and laughing. Gasps filled the room. Claire's expression froze, but it didn't stop there. The second video showed Sean speaking to someone on the phone. "She gives me access to all the files I need. She thinks I love her dash." Claire's face went pale. Sean's jaw tightened. Ethan looked straight at Claire. "I want you to know," he said. "This isn't about vengeance. It's about truth, and about showing you what you've truly become, Dash." The crowd murmured, torn between horror and curiosity. Ethan turned to leave, But just before stepping off the stage, Sean lunged forward. "You idiot! You don't know anything. She was in on it with me." Everyone turned. Claire's voice cracked through the noise. "What the hell are you talking about?" Sean pulled out his phone, fumbling through messages, trying to expose her as a co-conspirator. But then Olivia stepped forward. "Actually," Olivia said, "you're both wrong. You see, Sean, Claire didn't betray Ethan alone. You were never in control of this game, because I've been recording every meeting, and I already handed everything over to the board dash." Dead silence. Claire fell back into her chair, stunned. Sean's face drained of color. Ethan stood still, not smiling, just breathing. It wasn't just revenge. It was checkmate. But what happens next? When Ethan realizes Olivia has her own agenda. When you think the game is over, but the final card hasn't even been played. Keep watching, because in the next chapter, everything will flip. Coming up next. The next morning, the office was silent, like the calm after a hurricane. Ethan walked into the building with a strange heaviness in his chest. Unsure whether he felt vindicated or just empty. Claire hadn't shown up. Sean's desk was cleared out, and Olivia was waiting for him in the glass conference room, with coffee and a folder. She greeted him with a quiet, unreadable smile, sliding the folder across the table. "I told you I had everything," she said, "but I didn't tell you why dash." Inside the folder were transcripts, hundreds of pages, recordings, emails, financial leaks, client bribes. It wasn't just Sean. It wasn't even just Claire. It was a full-blown corporate conspiracy. And Olivia had been collecting dirt for over a year. Ethan's hands trembled slightly as he flipped through the pages. "This is massive," he whispered. "Why didn't you come to me earlier?" Olivia leaned back, her eyes cold but honest. "Because I needed to know if you were strong enough to handle the truth," she said. "You were too busy protecting everyone, even Claire, even when she was stabbing you in the back dash." He looked at her, stunned. "You used me," he said. "I trusted you would do the right thing," Olivia replied. "And you did. But this isn't over dash." Then she dropped the final bombshell. "I went to the board last night after the gala. They're not firing Sean. They're promoting him dash." Ethan stood frozen. The floor beneath him felt like it cracked in half. "What? They think you're emotionally compromised," Olivia continued. "They saw your speech as reckless. And Claire, she's playing the victim card. Told them you've been spying on her for months dash." Ethan's pulse roared in his ears. "And you let that happen?" "I let it happen," she said softly, "because I needed you to see the game you're really playing in dash." Then she stood up. "I'm giving you one chance, Ethan. We can bring them all down together, but it means getting your hands dirty dash." He stared at her, and for the first time, he wasn't sure who the real enemy was anymore. The board betrayed him. Claire played him. Sean got away with everything, and Olivia may have been the puppet master all along. But what if Ethan flips the script in the final chapter and outsmarts them all? Don't miss what happens next, because it will leave you questioning who really won. Coming right up. 3 days later, Ethan walked into the boardroom wearing the same navy suit he wore the night of the gala. This time, though, his shoulders weren't weighed down by betrayal. They were braced for war. The room was full, the entire executive board. Sean, smug as ever, seated at the head. Claire, now the new head of communications, sat beside him, her wedding ring conspicuously missing, and Olivia, across the room, barely nodded as Ethan took his place at the far end of the table. "Ethan," one of the board members said, "you asked for an emergency session. We hope this isn't another personal outburst dash." But Ethan didn't flinch. He opened a small flash drive, plugged it into the conference monitor, and hit play. What followed was 30 seconds of complete silence in the room, except for the audio of Sean's voice, caught on tape during a private meeting with a major competitor, offering classified company data in exchange for a personal consulting deal if the board turned against him. It wasn't just infidelity, it was corporate espionage. Gasps filled the room. Claire went pale. Sean stood up, stuttering, trying to claim it was fabricated dash. But Olivia rose and calmly laid a signed, time-stamped transcript on the table. And then Ethan spoke. You betrayed your wife. You betrayed this company. And now you're going to face the consequences. Silence. Then chaos. The board motioned for Sean's removal. Claire was asked to step out pending a formal investigation. And Ethan? He didn't ask for their approval. He handed in his resignation. Everyone stared, confused. I'm not staying in a place where truth only matters when it is convenient, he said. I did what needed to be done. Now I'm building something that won't rot from the inside. He walked out, leaving everything behind. Title, reputation, even Olivia, because the twist wasn't that Ethan exposed everyone. It was that he let them think Olivia had helped him, when in fact she was next on his list. In his final act before walking away, Ethan had leaked Olivia's own blackmail ring to a private investigator, an anonymous tip that would unravel everything she built from the shadows. And as he stepped into the elevator, the final line of the email echoed in his head. Justice isn't a clean thing, but it's still justice. Now the only question is, did Ethan finally find peace, or just become what he hated most? Let me know in the comments, because this ending is going to haunt you, and if you thought that was wild, just wait until you hear the next story.